If you feel this would trigger you, we encourage you to be careful in choosing to listen. If you decide not to, we totally understand and will welcome you back with open arms for the next show.
Hi, I'm Jem.
And I'm Victoria.
And this is Give Me a T. We're both doing it.
Give me a
H. Give me a E.
Give me criminal crack.
It's going to go on too long, isn't it?
The criminal
crack.
Crack.
Mic drop. We're
Hi,
so
everybody.
Cool.
We're just not normal, are we? We're a little bit broken. We've both had the lurgy because Gemma kindly shared.
If you recall in the last episode, I said that I'd been ill, had a day off work, but was miraculously better.
I was better and
I sound like an idiot, yeah.
Walking on daisies and sunshine.
Walking on sunshine. But it turned out the day after I got ill again, and that was me for 2 weeks, and I had the lurgy.
It didn't help that she came in and licked my face as a hello. No, she gave me the lurgy.
I do that, though.
You do. Hopefully we're on the mend now, but it's done its rounds, hasn't it?
Oh, it's been rough.
And I've been up and down to England. I couldn't remember the word.
England.
I went to visit my Suffolk peeps and I surprised my bestie Craig for his 50th birthday.
Her other bestie.
Got incredibly drunk. Too drunk.
That's why you were ill. It was just a 2-week hangover.
No, I just don't drink anymore. And so when I do, it's like...
That's a lie.
It's not.
You're like, oh, it's a Tuesday. Do you want to drink of something? You made me drink like really strong cider the other day.
Oh, that was Sunday.
Oh, it was yummy.
Well, that's because it's now autumn, so I get to make my mulled cider, and I made apple cakes with streusel topping, and we had a nice roast dinner.
The peachy thing?
Oh, yeah, made a peach tartan.
That I thought was apple because you showed me an apple just beforehand.
Yeah, because I was putting the apples in the cider. Mm-hmm. Mulling the cider.
It was
with
very
loads of cinnamon and stuff. But I did put a big thing of Courvoisier in there and a big thing of amaretto.
Yeah, but everybody was saying it was really strong, and I was like, I'm fine. Like, I have a sip of wine, and that's it. I need to go to bed. I'm tired. But I could have drank more of that.
I don't have anyone to drink red wine with, and my bottles of red wine are piling up. And then yesterday I accidentally bought 3 more bottles because they'd reduced my favourite wine in the co-op, which is a Negro Amara from Puglia, and I love it. But if I open a bottle, I've got to drink it all to myself, and that just seems greedy.
You don't have to drink it in one night.
No, that's true. Mm-hmm. But it's delicious, though.
Yuck, I don't like red wine. What else have you been up to?
Not loads, because my last week of my annual leave I was just really poorly and horrible and feeling sorry for myself and just made myself a little duvet fort. And I didn't even really watch anything, because I was just so ill. Yeah. I was just a bit like, blah, what can I do? Couldn't read because I was just all bunged and headachy. And
you can always tell if I'm really ill because I can't even listen to podcasts. The noise in my ear is just too much, so I don't listen to any podcasts at all.
See, I normally put the Sound of Music on and have some chicken soup, but I didn't even do that. I was just blah. But you went away because I looked after your little pooch.
You did. Went to Aberdeen and it was very good fun. Had Pizza Express and went looking around some shops and stayed in a hotel.
Did you find any wild ponies?
Don't be ridiculous. I never find wild ponies. But I did go to Old School Vintage in Balmeedy, which is like, it's open on a Saturday and a Sunday, and it's like a industrial unit sort of thing.
You should share the video that you sent me. You should share that on the thing.
Need to.
Actually, because we've got the Curiosity Crack as well, which is our other page, and we've not put anything on it yet.
Yeah, I will do it. And I was really baffled because my uncle popped out of nowhere, and apparently he's there every weekend because he sells antiques and things as well.
Is he like a little genie? Did you rub a lamp?
No, I just walked past the door and I was like, why are you here? And he told the people there, so it's a guy and his dad. So Chris is the son. He was like, how do you know Bill? And I said, oh, I'm his niece. And my uncle went, well, you're like a niece-in-law. Which is not a thing. When you become an auntie and uncle, even if you and your partner split up, you're still an auntie or uncle to that kid. So I didn't take it well. And so I got to use...
was he trying to put some distance between you?
Well, he said the exact words he said were, I'm not trying to distance myself or anything. I was like, it bloody sounds like you are. So, but then he treated me to some stuff from the shop, so I was happy.
Aww.
I got some vintage sheets. I got a birthday present for someone, and I got...
Yeah, you got some fabric, didn't you? Yeah.
I did, and I got... So I can't... There's 2 presents I've got for people that I can't mention them on here, but it was
that would be a bit
really
of
good. So they're really good. Definitely worth a visit.
Yeah, I'll go
We
one
need
day.
to go and have a look. They've got loads of Tupperware.
I love Tupperware.
And Pyrex. And they had this really cute little pink, like this colour pink, which doesn't help you guys. You know the colour germaline?
Rose
No, it's the colour of
dust.
germaline used to be in the tin, remember?
Yeah.
Like skin coloured. I always thought, so it blends in, you don't see your scars. And it was a teapot and little cups and stuff. And sort of
What was
wish
the
I
other
got that.
thing? It was Swarfiga, wasn't it, that was green? I used to love that
It's
stuff.
a green tub. You've mentioned that on the pod before.
Have I?
You have.
This is a weird thing then, isn't it?
So yeah, I did that and I had a great time. And I have a confession to make though.
Uh-oh.
Because I was so ill, I had planned to read a book for a case that I was going to do. And I'm still going to do the case, but I can't do it just now because I've not read the book. I just couldn't focus during being ill.
So you said to us that you weren't doing a murder.
I know, and I've had to change it. So
Is there a murder?
there is Taggart McFlaggart. There is a murder or 2, and the case is one that I did. So I used to do a radio show on KCR, which is Keith Community Radio, and every month I had a 15
Keith
minutes
is a place, not a person. Well, it's a person as well, obviously.
It's lots of people.
Yeah.
Shout out to Keith.
Yo, Keith!
Yeah, so
It's a place
I
in
had a radio
Scotland.
show and I only got 15 minutes, so my episodes had to be kind of condensed. So what I've done is I've done extra research and I'm sort of redoing a case, but most of you will never have heard of KCR, let alone my episode.
Sorry, you've just made me think of Campbell's soup, you know, where you have to, because
I
it's
hate Campbell's
condensed
soup.
and then you have to add water, and that's basically what you've done to your episode.
Soup should not come out in the shape of the tin like jelly.
It's horrid. It is horrid.
I feel a bit ill now.
Sorry.
So, yeah,
Are you ready, Gemma?
I am.
Tell me, what is the crack?
Today we're in the 80s and we're in the UK. The 80s were actually a really scary time for women, but because there was no internet back then and newspapers, it might be in a national newspaper, like Murders Down South might be in a national newspaper, but you didn't really hear too much about them. But today's episode will show you that there was a lot going on in the 80s that
Yes.
women and children needed
I
to worry
don't
about.
associate any major crimes with the 80s, and I'm sure there were, but I guess because we were little and we were in a little cushy childhood bubble, maybe.
We were the crime. We were a mini crime wave. Well, we're going to begin on the evening of Monday, the 22nd of November, 1983. We're in the small area of the Coppice, I think it's the Coppice in Narborough, which is a small village on the outskirts of Leicester in England. The Coppice was home to 15-year-old Linda Rosemary Mann, her 2 sisters, Sue and Rebecca, and her mother, Kath, and our stepdad, Eddie. After a day at Lutterworth Grammar School, Linda had eaten a dinner of mince and tatties and drank some dandelion and burdock, which I don't know if you get that everywhere, but it's a bizarre drink that's amazing.
I don't like it.
You're weird. After she'd had her dinner, she got changed, it says, into tight-fitting jeans. There were jeans or trousers, I'm not entirely sure, and a dark-coloured donkey jacket. You know what they are, don't you?
No, explain to me what a donkey jacket is, because I thought it was something to do with like a suit jacket, but
No.
no?
They're usually made out of black or navy wool, and they're sort of just square-shaped, and it's like a work jacket.
Okay.
They can have poppers down them sometimes, but they're really shapeless. They're worn long in the body and they're not fitted at all.
Okay.
She pulled up her jacket collar to ward off the cold air, and looking out from underneath a heavy full fringe, she tucked her dark hair behind her ears and set off on foot to do a babysitting job that she had for the evening. So she's 15 and she's off to do some babysitting. But her family were really surprised to see her home just after 6 p.m. when she explained that when she arrived for her job, she'd been told that unfortunately, due to illness in the home, she was no longer required. By the time she left again that night, though, Linda was really angry after having a falling out with Sue, her elder sister, who was on babysitting duty for Rebecca. So the parents were going out to play darts. It was like a Monday night thing, and Sue was looking after the younger sister, and she had invited a boy round, and I don't know if the mum knew about this, but she'd invited a boy round and wanted some privacy, so she told Linda basically to make herself scarce.
Like, she wasn't meant to be there, and... Yes,
And Linda
yeah, go
might
on.
tell.
Yeah.
And from what I've read, Sue was a bit of a rebellious girl, and Linda was very by the book and studious. So this is something that Sue says she will always regret. She believes that if they hadn't argued and that Linda had stayed home, everything would have been fine, which is heartbreaking. This girl, it's years and years later, obviously, and she still holds a lot of guilt for what happened, but she's not the one to blame. With her mum's permission, Linda left home and headed out to visit a friend. As she left, she wrapped a scarf around her neck as it was frosty outside and went out the front door saying goodbye to everybody before being quickly swallowed by the dark November night. Little did her family know they'd never see her alive again.
15.
Linda arrived at her friend's house at 7:15, but left 15 minutes later, saying that she wanted to go to another friend's house in a town nearby called Enderby to collect an LP. Two things. Narborough and Enderby, they look like they're joined, but they're different towns, so they're really close. You can just walk over. And for our younger listeners, an LP is a music format. So music used to be released on a format called a record, which was made out of a thick vinyl. There was one that was small, so if you were buying like a single, it would be on a small one, and it might... Did they have songs on both sides?
Yeah.
On the singles?
Yeah.
A side and B side.
Yeah, single was a 45. Then you got a 12-inch, which was an LP. But there was also, I think there was a 7-inch as well, which had more songs, more space. So there.
Wasn't 7-inch the small one?
No, that was a 45, I think.
But 45 is bigger than 7. Anyhow, and there was bigger ones that would have like a band's or artist's full album. Later that night, Kathleen and Eddie, Linda's parents, began to worry when she didn't arrive home. They reached out to her friend who said she'd not arrived to collect the LP when she was meant to. Worried sick, knowing that this was unusual for their quiet but conscientious daughter, they contacted the police at midnight to report Linda missing. Even though it was late, police action was taken straight away, with officers hitting the streets and searching alongside Kath and Eddie. The search went on in vain until 7 a.m, when a local hospital worker who had climbed on his bike at the end of his shift to cycle home found the body of a young girl lying on a tarmac pavement in the area known locally as the Black Pad. Shocked at what he was seeing, the man got back on his bike and pedalled as fast as he could to find somewhere to call for help, because obviously it was the days before mobiles.
Yeah.
Police, led by Detective Chief Superintendent David Baker, cordoned off the area, and a preliminary exam was conducted by a pathologist while a forensic team searched the area for clues for what had happened. The victim was found, her clothes rumpled and in disarray. She was barefoot and she had no underwear on. The scarf she had grabbed when she went home after being told she wasn't needed to babysit was tight around her neck, and she'd been left out in the cold November elements. After sharing with Linda's parents about what they had found, DCSI Baker announced that this was a murder inquiry.
Well, had she been strangled by the scarf then?
We'll get there.
Right.
He was unable to say at the time how the young girl had been killed, or if she'd been subject to sexual assault, which we're going to refer to as Essie for the rest of the episode. But they thought there was a good chance it was Linda based on the description of her appearance and the clothing she was wearing when their family last saw her. He told the public that further details would come later in the day when the full PM had been completed. It was assumed that due to the low temperatures on the previous evening, Linda probably chose to take a shortcut on her way to her friend's house in Enderby, which cut through the area where she was found. The Black Pad is known in Narborough as a lover's lane, and to enter this, Linda would have had to pass through a kissing gate onto a footpath bordered by a fence on one side and tall grass on the other. This path was sandwiched between a psychiatric hospital and a cemetery and sounds to be fairly isolated.
Sounds a scary place to walk as a 15-year-old, though.
Well, I was thinking this, but when I think back to when I was younger, some of the places I walked at night, because I worked,
I guess
you just
you're
didn't
right.
think, you just think it's your local town, so you're
also,
safe.
when you're that age, you think you're invincible. You don't think.
I don't
that
even think
way.
you're invincible. You just don't think.
No, but it does paint a picture to me that just sounds spooky.
It's horrible, yeah. And it was obviously the perfect spot for somebody to attack somebody. Now, I'm not shaming Linda here in any way, but I do want to give a bit of personal advice. Well, a personal service announcement out to everyone. I don't care if you're male, female, non-binary, old, young, whatever. If you're out alone, especially at night time and in the dark, stay in places where you're visible and you can see ahead of you, because you never know who's about and who might want to do you harm. And I'm not saying that this 100% can keep you safe, but it does make it harder for would-be attackers if you're vigilant.
And another thing is, if you're going to wear headphones, wear one.
Don't wear them at night. If you're on your own.
But some people find it comforting to have that other sound.
It is.
But it's just if you have to, just one, please.
I still think don't even wear the one, and I'm a one wearer when I'm out and about walking during the day. It takes your mind away from paying attention. Right, so I looked up kissing gates, and they are those gates that are to stop livestock escaping when the gates opened. And there's one locally, so I'm going to take a picture of it.
Cool.
People can open them up, stand in that little enclosure where the gates swing closed, and then you go into the next bit, don't you? Sort of move your body into the next bit. So I'm going to send a picture.
There's one at Duffus Castle, and George cannot figure it out.
Oh,
Our CEO, she struggles with it. She's like, well, I don't know where to go. I just stand here. And then I end up lifting her up, and that's, you know.
Molly tries to go under it.
Yeah.
When the PM was completed, it was confirmed that Linda had been essayed, and the cause of death was strangulation, with the weapon used being Linda's own scarf.
Yeah.
Time of death was never able to be narrowed down due to the extreme cold conditions at the time. They knew what night it had happened.
Because
when she went missing.
And how quickly she was reported missing, I guess.
For 3 long months, police worked hard investigating Linda's murder, while her poor family waited in limbo to find out who had taken their baby girl from them and to be able to bury her. As in all murder cases, working out a timeline for Linda's movements on Monday the 21st of November 1983 was paramount in finding possible witnesses and potential suspects in this heinous attack. And DSCI, we're just going to say Officer Baker, had his team on it, because I'm confusing myself now. Not only did they have over 100 officers working on this, but they did house-to-house inquiries and made numerous appeals to the public for help. Very quickly, and I mean like the day after Linda's body was found, the police started to share information regarding a person they would like to talk to based on sightings from several witnesses. Loads of tips had come in. There was about 300.
The next day?
The next day.
That's, wow.
Yep. And quickly over 200 statements had been taken by the police. Information was initially fairly basic, but by Saturday the 26th, so that's
3 days.
4 days.
4 days.
4 days since she was found, the police were saying they were pretty sure they knew Linda's movements on the night she was murdered. They shared with the public that they were looking for a young man they described as a punk, who had been seen throughout the evening on Monday the 21st with a young girl, which they believed to be Linda. This guy was believed to be between the ages of 17 and 20 years old, around 5 foot 10 inches tall. He had a slim face and light-coloured hair, so probably like a blonde or light brown. From statements, his hair was cut at the back, but was styled to be spiky at the front, punk. He was wearing a light-coloured bomber jacket with a pair of tight calf-length dark jeans with Doc Marten boots.
Drainpipe jeans and DMs,
yeah.
Punk.
Probably turned up, the jeans. Baker's team was really invested in finding this youth, as they'd been provided with information that someone matching his description had been seen running in Kipling Drive and George Street, though he was clearly not dressed as someone who was jogging for fitness. I don't know what people who jog for fitness wear, because it's not something I've ever done. They assured the public that they were creating an e-fit of this punk youth and would get it out ASAP. Some of the details regarding where they were seen are quite confusing without knowing the area, and actually even with a map it's confusing. So I'm going to share a map which I'll mark up so everybody can see. It'll be on Facebook. I'll also mark where Linda was found so you can see where she was in relation to it. At around 8 p.m, the driver of a car saw the pair at the junction of Forest Road and King Edward Avenue heading towards Desford Road. Now, the black pad footpath actually crossed King Edward Avenue and Forest Road, and it's quite long and becomes Desford Road, if that helps. It's one of those streets, it's like one long street, but it's got 3 names.
Because it's so long. I'm
yeah.
like, we better give it another name.
Yeah. 10 minutes later, the twosome were seen standing at a bus shelter on Forest Road at the junction to Langham Drive, and by 8:30 someone else saw them walking up Forest Road Hill, which is near the opening of the footpath.
So was she, I mean, she wasn't under, she was voluntarily with him by the sound
Well,
of
it seems to be, if this was Linda.
Yeah, if this was Linda.
Other leads that the police followed were the sightings of a young girl being carried by 2 youths on King Edward Avenue at about 9:20, but they were unable to ever confirm if the female was Linda. They also questioned numerous male friends of hers, including one who'd spent a lot of time with her over the previous weekends, but they got nothing. On Thursday the 24th of November, Officer Baker put out a public appeal for the driver of a maroon-coloured ex-reg Vauxhall Cavalier to come forward, as they believed that he may have witnessed something important in Narborough on that Monday. They were also really keen to speak to people who had ridden the night buses in the area on Monday the 21st of November. Because sometimes you've seen something but you don't know you've seen it.
I'm still a bit weirded out by 2 people carrying a girl. Seems a bit
Yeah, but if
odd.
you think about the capering you used to do at 15.
Yeah.
4 days.
She keeps implying that I was this little rebellious.
I meant everybody. I meant in general. 4 days after Linda Mann was found, local newspaper the Leicester Mercury announced something that looked fairly promising. They reported that the police were very interested in leads on and to speak to a man who'd been seen exiting the Black Pad at around 8:35 on Monday the 21st of November. The man in question was around 30 years old, 5'6", with broad shoulders and dark brown hair swept back off his face and tapered to the collar at the back. He was seen wearing faded blue jeans which had a 3-inch tear in the left knee, a dark bomber jacket, and he sported an earring. This seems like an incredible lead, but it's one we need to come back to because despite all the work police were doing, none of this led to anything further. And so on Thursday the 2nd of February, so we've gone from November to February 1984, Linda was laid to rest surrounded by friends and family in the All Saints Church in her hometown of Narborough, and her family still had no answers. Alongside everything we've discussed so far, Officer Baker had reached out to other forces who were dealing with murder cases of their own to investigate potential links between the cases and his. So as I say, when I told you that the 80s was not a safe time for women and girls in the UK, that's an understatement of epic proportions.
I'm just trying to think of the time frame as well. Was, if it was 83 going into 84, this was before DNA, wasn't it?
We'll get there as well.
Okay.
One such case was the at the time unsolved murder of a 16-year-old girl called Colette Aram on the 30th of October 1983, so just before. This had happened in the town of Keyworth, which was a mere half-hour drive from Narborough. On that fateful Sunday night, Colette left her home on Normanton Lane in Keyworth at around 8 to go meet her boyfriend Russell Godfrey at his home on Willowbrook. Now usually Russell would collect her, but on this night his car was off-road, so she just decided to walk over because it wasn't far. It was about 20-minute walk, so not far at all.
Yeah, you wouldn't think twice, would you?
No, you wouldn't. To make it quicker, or perhaps due to the cold, or maybe this wasn't unusual for her, she took a shortcut through an area called Nicker Hill. Like Linda, Colette was found the following morning naked, clearly beaten and strangled in a field by a commuter near the Leicestershire-Nottinghamshire border, and like Linda, her case was unsolved for a long time. Local Leicester newspapers also wondered if the July 1983 unsolved at the time murder of Caroline Osborne could have been the work of the same person who killed Linda. So this is a new one.
I've heard that name.
You will have, and then you find out at the end why you know it.
Oh, okay.
Caroline was a 33-year-old dog groomer who had her own business based in her home in Leicester when she was found strangled to death on wasteland in Aylstown Meadows Nature Reserve. And we're going to come back to those two cases at the end.
In nature reserves with you.
I know. I actually, when that came up, I was like, oh, I'm not going to visit any nature reserves anytime soon. So I'm going to come back to those, but all you need to know is that they were declared not linked by police.
The
final case that had people wondering was the unsolved at the time case of 5-year-old Caroline Hogg from Beach Lane, Portobello in Edinburgh. Caroline was abducted from the street outside her home on Friday the 8th of July 1983, but she was found naked and murdered in a ditch at the side of the M1 motorway near, I meant to look this up, Twycross? TWY Cross, 10 days later. The terrified little girl had been transported over 310 miles to the district of Hinckley and Bosworth in Leicester before being abused and tossed away like rubbish, only a 30-minute car ride away from where Linda had been found.
5 years old.
I know. Again, it was decided that these cases weren't linked. And though unsolved at the time, all of these cases have resolution that I've just told you about. By summer 1984, Linda had been buried, but the case had stalled to almost a complete stop. With little to no leads, police officers were redistributed to other cases, and with none of the technology available to us now, it seemed this was destined to become a cold case. Now, this is just a quick sidebar for you guys and for our quizzers like Victoria. 1984 was the same year British geneticist Sir Alec John Jeffreys discovered genetic fingerprinting, and in the years following developed this further to be used in identifying criminals. Pop a pin in that because we're going to come back.
Okay.
But right now we need to discuss another young girl. 3 years after the murder of Linda Mann, Enderby and Narborough residents were back to living in fear when another local family's world was shattered when their 15-year-old daughter went out of the door and was never seen alive again.
You talk about my cases.
These are horrible ones. It was around 4:30 when 15-year-old Lutterworth Grammar pupil Dawn Ashworth left the home she shared with her parents, Barbara and Robin, in Enderby to visit a friend who lived on Carlton Avenue in Narborough. After spending time with her friend, Dawn waved goodbye and left for home in good time to be on time for her 7:30 curfew, as the two homes were only about 20 minutes away from each other, like door to door. This should have been an easy and quick walk home, but like Linda, instead of taking her usual route, Dawn took a shortcut down a path called £10 Lane. So much of Dawn's story is eerily similar to Linda's, and her parents actually reference what happened to Linda a lot as Dawn was growing up, and when she began going out and about as a teenager, this is why they gave her curfews. During the week, she had to be home by 7:30, and at the weekends, it was 9:30. When Dawn didn't arrive home and hadn't called with an explanation, Barbara and Robin were concerned. They knew that Dawn wouldn't stay out like this, so they called the police, who began the search immediately. Her parents would later tell the newspapers that they knew some of Dawn's friends' parents considered them really strict because they gave her these curfews that I mentioned, but they were very conscious of what could happen. They'd seen it 3 years previously and warned her about walking alone, and it just goes to show you can do everything right, but that someone can come along and just destroy everything.
It's so hard when you're a parent and you want to allow your child to have that freedom to explore and grow and turn into an
well-developed,
independent, but at the same time you have this horrible fear because you know the reality of what can happen in the way. It's so hard.
It is, especially if you are massively into true crime. I don't trust anybody anyway, but it's compounded by the amount of things. Like, I know the world is an awful place.
Yeah.
Enderby at the time was a fairly small and close-knit community with a population of about 6,000. And when they learned Dawn was missing, they all came together to try and help because she was one of their own and they wanted her home. In a horrible coincidence, on the day that local councillor for Narborough, Mr. Douglas Mass, spoke out in the Leicester Mercury, asking people to please do everything to help find Dawn, a local woman walking her dog made a horrifying discovery.
Oh, another blooming dog walker as well.
I know. I think it's because dog walkers are out early and late.
Yeah.
If you get me.
And off the beaten track, yeah.
Yeah. At 8:17 a.m. on Saturday, 2nd of August, 1986, the battered and broken body of a young girl was found. It wasn't long after when a family member had the worst task in the world that day and identified her as Dawn Ashworth. And our regular listeners will know that this is something I've been through myself, so I have the utmost empathy for anyone who has to go and identify a loved one, especially in these sort of circumstances. This poor woman, who was out walking her dog that morning, found Dawn lying face down in the corner of an area of Enderby called £10 Lane by the locals. She was around 6.5 metres from a public path on land that belonged to a large local psychiatric hospital. From a map I found online, which I'll share, Dawn was found approximately, are you ready for this? 160 metres from where Linda died in 1983.
Wow.
That's like 1/10 of a mile.
Yeah.
It's
close.
Yeah, really close. And it just makes me think what the family went through, but also everybody else living in that area. It must have been so scary at that time.
Now I'm assuming the police have got to link them, surely.
Dawn had been discarded and only partially covered by a monster who attacked her in the middle of a bright and sunny August day. So while Linda was killed in
After dark,
winter in dark, this happened during the day. Whoever this is bold.
And if it's the same person, they have escalated.
It does sound like it would be. She was still dressed in the clothes she had left Mill Lane in, a mid-calf length white skirt, which I'm guessing she had carefully paired with the multicoloured sleeveless top that was underneath, a white pullover that was also sleeveless, and her denim jacket. The whole outfit was topped off with white shoes which were still on her feet. Remember going out to meet your friends and you would be like, oh, this boy's going to be there, or oh, I have to look my best, and you make the effort, don't you?
Yeah.
Unlike now where you just barely put a brush through your hair.
Especially in the 80s when fashion was really
naff but cool as anything.
It was changing, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was really adapting, and you could have a bit more freedom, I think.
You could. It was the start of a bit more individuality, I think.
I mean, now people have no idea because you can pretty much wear what you like now.
Yeah.
It's like there are so many things that are very cool and retro and all that stuff. But then
from photographs of people now, people in the future looking back, they'll find it hard to place what year we're on unless there's a phone in their hand or
Exactly, yeah.
Dee CSI Baker and his force carefully and methodically searched the area for clues as to who had done this, and Dawn's body was removed and taken for post-mortem. It revealed that Dawn had been subjected to a brutal attack and she fought back hard. This was evidenced by multiple defence wounds all over her hands and arms, but despite her desperate attempts, she was essayed before having her life taken from her in the same way as Linda, manual strangulation. As her family tried to function after her loss, there was an incredible outpouring of love for the young girl who would forever be 15. On the 4th of August, her family shared the announcement of their incomprehensible loss, which was followed by so many touching messages from around the community offering their sympathy and support. And I've never seen this many notices, and it just made my heart go swell out. You know, in the paper, the bit where it's like death and announcements.
The obituaries.
Yeah, but we don't call them that in the newspaper.
No?
It doesn't say obituaries in the newspaper, or didn't then. But there must have been about 15
it was just an
messages.
announcements page, wasn't it?
But there must have been about 15 messages all for Dawn, and I've not seen that before. Usually it's the family, and then they go on to the next one.
Have you seen them? Did you look at them?
And I'm going to put them up.
Good. Oh.
More than 650 calls with tips and witness reports had already come in by this point, and on the 5th, the police put out an appeal for the following. They were looking for people who had attended the Enderby Leisure Centre and or the local pitch and putt, or who may have walked along a stretch of the village known as the Green Lane footpath, as they may have been witness to something that seemed insignificant at the time but's important in the case. They were also interested in hearing from people who may have been accosted, assaulted, or had anyone approach them in a threatening manner in the £10 Lane area and not previously reported it.
I'm glad they've specifically asked for that, because quite often that doesn't happen. And they, these perpetrators sometimes do have unsuccessful attempts at things.
You will find it wild when you look up at the end the record this person had.
Wow, okay.
Well, not even record, what they admitted to.
Okay.
You'll know the name when I come to it. They also asked people to look carefully at the people around them, or think back and let them know if anyone they knew had been acting differently in the past couple of months or had come home with bruises or blood on them. This was a vicious attack, and it's unlikely that they left unscathed, given that Dawn's defence wounds were all over her. And even if they themselves weren't bleeding, she was, and that would be evident on them and their clothes. The similarities in how the girls were killed and the location they were left was compounded by a number of things. Both girls were 15 at the time of their murders. They looked incredibly similar. Both were dark hair and were around 5'3" in height. They lived in close proximity to each other and attended the same school 3 years apart. Schools, in fact.
Oh, multiple. Oh, right, okay.
There was Lutterworth Grammar, and they both went to a college as well.
I've got family in Lutterworth.
Do you?
Yeah.
Oh, so they'll know the name of some of these places.
Probably. They'll probably know the names of the people.
They'll definitely know who these are.
My auntie Wendy, which is my dad's sister, and his brother lives in Rugby, so all the
wow,
same area.
okay.
Yeah.
So it's close to home. Even going back to the nights they both went missing, they were both innocently walking home from spending time with friends when a monster found them. Like the community, the police believed this was the same monster. This was quickly confirmed when the results came back, proving that blood at both scenes came from the same person. I've just said same person a lot. Shortly after this result, police arrested local teenager Richard Buckland. Richard was a 17-year-old kitchen porter at the psychiatric hospital and a resident of Narborough. On the 11th of August, after 72 hours in police custody, he stood before the Leicester County Court on the charge of murdering Dawn. Richard, who had learning difficulties, came onto the police's radar when it transpired that he knew Dawn and he'd been sharing details of the crime scene that had not been released publicly.
Does that make him 14?
No, he was 17.
For the first one?
If he committed that one as well, yeah.
Oh, right, okay.
I actually hadn't thought of that, but yeah, that would have made him 14.
Gee whiz.
At 5:30am, 3 days before his court appearance, police arrived at Richard's address, and in front of his horrified parents, Chris and Valerie, and his brother, they removed him from his home dressed only in a tracksuit, and then, according to his father, they questioned him for 15 hours. It was during this questioning that he confessed to murdering Dawn repeatedly, but then he recanted it every single time. However, he categorically denied doing anything to Linda, which obviously left police in a quandary, as they were convinced that both murders were perpetuated by the same culprit. I just said perpetrated the way that American people say it. Perpetuated. Perpetrated. Is that the same word?
No.
Oh. Sorry. Following the charge being made official, Police then remanded him in jail. I know that was a really idiotic comment about that word, sorry. At this time, I am guessing that both Dawn and Linda's families and the local community felt some kind of, I don't know if peace is the right word, but knowing that the police thought they had the right guy and he was behind bars, that's got to have made them feel, I don't want to say good, but something.
It must have put their mind at ease, but then does it?
I don't know.
I don't know if it does.
Actually, we can't say,
because
can we?
actually, you're just then going to think if somebody, like, you know, if a 17-year-old can do that, what else can happen?
But I guess at least you might be thinking, well, he's off the streets.
Yeah.
In September, Dawn Ashworth was able to be laid to rest at St John the Baptist Church in her hometown of Enderby, which I think might have been some kind of comfort to Barbara and Robin, her parents.
Yeah.
Or I hope so. In November 1986, there was a huge break in the case when pinned Sir Alec Jeffreys, remember I mentioned him, I told you pop a pin in, reported his findings from analysing DNA found at both scenes and stated categorically that Richard Buckland could not have been the killer of either girl.
Wow.
Now,
Okay.
as listeners know, you and I are...
So hold on a minute. What was found for them to arrest him in the first place? I thought you said
he was arrested because he knew Dawn and he'd been talking about things at the crime scene.
But how did he know that stuff then? Oh, okay.
So, as everybody knows, we are really interested in the science behind criminal forensics like this. So I'm going to give a little rundown on how this analysis was done and what it meant for the case.
Good-o. Here's the science bit.
What was that in? Was it in...
It was an advert for shampoo by Jennifer
Oh,
Aniston.
it was! I thought it was. What was that show when we were kids where you learned about stuff? The Y Show or...
Blue Peter.
No.
The Really Wild Show.
Say it again because I was writing.
The Really Wild Show.
No, that was that Terry Nuttall.
Excuse me.
The guy, Terry Nuttall. Are you thinking filthy thoughts? Right, let's go back into this. Dr. Alec Jeffreys and a colleague, Dr. Sweely Thane, from the John Radcliffe Hospital in Oxford, and a team of researchers from Leicester University had come together and found a way to use blood or any other genetic materials to create what is essentially a genetic fingerprint, using a probe successfully to show that Richard's DNA was not present at either scene or on either Linda or Dawn's bodies. And this was the first time this DNA had ever been
Wow,
used.
and I'm assuming they found seminal fluid.
Possibly. No, they used blood.
Okay.
For this one. But yeah, they could use seminal fluid, skin particles, I guess. This was the start of
Snot,
this.
whatever, yeah.
Okay. I never know what's going to come out of your mouth.
Snot, apparently.
Anyway,
Ew.
this led to Richard being cleared of all charges and he was released on Friday the 21st of November 1986 after 14 weeks inside. This marked the end of a nightmare for Richard and his parents who from the outset did not believe he had done this.
And you said that he had additional needs as well. That's really bad, isn't
I'm going to go into it. I don't go into it in too much depth, and a lot of it's speculation, but we'll get there in a minute. At the same time, though, Dawn's parents, Barbara and Robin, were obviously devastated, as were Linda's parents, Kath and Eddie. In the 3 years since Linda's murder, they had moved away from the area, but they'd returned on that actual day to lay flowers on her grave to mark 3 years since they'd lost her. They were upset and angry. They thought that Richard was responsible for Linda's murder too, and this would have shaken them to the core. So it's not, they're not disappointed. I don't know how to word this, hang on.
Well, they must have been...
They thought that the police had who had done this, and now they're
There
finding
must
out.
have been an element of relief that they had some conclusion. And
Yeah.
then if it goes, like, complete U-turn back again, actually, it's going to take you further back, isn't it?
Exactly, and I don't know if it's thinking you've got closure and that person's inside and they'll be tried soon and that'll be like a little bookmark to end, like to start healing, I guess. I don't know if you can heal while you're waiting to... I don't think you ever heal losing a child, but...
But no, they wouldn't have, as well, they wouldn't have known how they were going to feel that time, if you know what I mean.
You wouldn't know how you...
Whereas, yeah.
It's horrible.
It's awful. I can't even comprehend what that must be like. I don't want to.
Well, at this point, I felt like I really wanted to share the toll that him being charged and remanded took on his family and him, and what I think may have happened. But just to be really clear, this is me speculating, and I'd like you to speculate, and I'd love to hear what listeners think. As soon as their son had been arrested, things things changed for the whole family. Mentally and financially, the toll this took on them was immense. First of all, Richard, who, as I said, it's believed had some additional needs. He would have been scared, confused, and pulled away from his family. Both parents were taking tranquilizers 6 times a day during the first 8 weeks, and Valerie was on the verge of a full mental breakdown. And I'm not sure how old Richard's brother was at the time, but I'm guessing because he's not been named, he must have been young.
Younger, yeah.
Yeah, but I can only imagine family must have stepped in to help care for him, as his parents were basically incapacitated with shock and grief and fear at this point.
They, in a sense, became victims themselves of it, didn't they?
Without doubt, became victims as soon as she went missing. Chris was a taxi driver when this all began, but due to threats towards himself, his family and his home, he had to quit. This left them without a significant amount of money to live on. Now, for me, I do try to see this from all sides, and it's taken me years to get to this point, but I try to see all sides. However, the public had clearly decided that Richard was guilty before a trial had even taken place, and that's awful. Yes, it might be human nature, but I wish people would stop and think. Wait and see what evidence comes out before you make up your mind.
Yeah, and also, once somebody is tarred with that brush, it seems to be, even if the police recant, it seems to just... It has
ruins their life.
It sticks.
It does, and
Something sticks.
Yeah, I read that Richard actually went to live with one of his grandparents after all this in a different area.
Yeah, I'm not surprised that...
Filled with relief when Richard was released, Chris said publicly that he thinks police probably did follow procedures, which I can't confirm one way or another. But I wonder if a combination of fear and his learning difficulties made Richard feel like he needed to say what the officers wanted to hear, which is why he probably said he killed Dawn. And I know this has happened hundreds of times before. 15 hours of questioning is a lot, and I can understand completely why false confessions happen.
That reminds me of the Making a Murderer,
Yeah.
Brandon Dassey.
Yeah.
The confession they got from him, because if you've watched that documentary, the confession was a joke. The whole process was absolutely ridiculous. And he was a child, he had additional needs, he was coerced into saying exactly what they wanted him to say.
And if you have watched that and thought that's a isolated incident,
It's not.
I encourage you to go and look at the Innocence Project
Yeah.
and see the amount of people sitting in jail for things they haven't done, which is what I'm going to get to. In terms of knowing things about the scene, I wonder, could Richard maybe have come upon Dawn's body in the hours before she was found and he panicked, or fear stopped him saying something, or maybe he didn't understand what he'd seen and that's how he knew some of the details?
Is that you speculating?
Yeah, completely speculating. Nobody said that.
Because if this was just meters from his workplace as well,
Yeah.
very possible, isn't it?
Yep. And nothing's ever came out to say that, but that's the only way I could think you might know something. And your brain will try and protect you. People see loved ones who have been decapitated, for example, right, in accidents on the road, but they don't see that at the time. Your brain will cover that from you, so who knows if he even realised that he'd seen
What
it.
he was looking at.
Yeah. And what makes me really sad in this instance is that if blood evidence hadn't been available, it's highly likely that Richard would have been found guilty and sentenced to a long time in jail when he was innocent. I often find myself thinking about how many people have been innocent and have been or are still in jail for crimes they haven't done, while the guilty walk about free and often go on to commit more crimes. It just makes you think, and the amount of people that have been hung, like when hanging was a thing and it wasn't them who did it. You're a bit quirky, so it must have been you. Luckily, not only did Richard have definitive proof he was innocent, but the monster who killed both girls was found. By January 1987, the case was no further on when police began taking blood or saliva samples from men local to or with links to the area, which were then to be screened using the revolutionary new technology which ruled Richard Buckland out the previous year. Over 4,000 men and boys living in the areas of Narborough, Enderby and Littlethorpe had samples taken. One of the men that was meant to give a sample was Colin Pitchfork.
Yeah.
A married father of 2 who worked in Hampshire's bakery. However, rather than doing this, he managed to con a co-worker, Ian Kelly, into providing a sample for him instead of doing it himself. And given that procedures of this type were in their infancy, this may well have worked for Pitchfork if he hadn't chose a proxy sample provider who couldn't keep his mouth shut. That's how he got caught. In August 1987, Ian Kelly got a bit mouthy whilst in the local pub with some mates and told them what he'd been asked to do and by whom. Unsurprisingly, in a small community, word of this fraudulent activity soon made its rounds and landed on the ears of the police, who leapt into action and began investigating Pitchfork. On Sunday the 20th of September 1987, officers arrived at 27-year-old Pitchfork's Littlethorpe residence and arrested him. And what would you know? DNA samples taken and analysed from him matched those at the scenes of both Linda and Dawn's murders. Born in March 1960, Pitchfork lived in a town called Newbold Verdon in the same area as his crimes and attended schools in Market Bosworth and Desford. In 1976, he began his career in the Hampshire's bakery in Leicester as an apprentice, where he became an accomplished sculptor of cakes and cake decoration, and it's been said that he wanted to eventually set up his own business. Don't think he really did want to set up a business being a baker, but anyway. He was known to be a moody guy who considered himself quite the ladies' man, but the reality was that he was a creep who often harassed local women.
And a pedophile.
Yeah. From pictures in the press, he appears to have been less than average in the looks department, though he did manage to find himself a wife who he was still with at the time of his arrest. They're no longer together, and I actually don't think she had any idea of the type of person she was married to. The couple had 2 young children, and residents where they lived just thought they were just an ordinary family. And I did find information on the ex-wife and his children, but I've decided not to share it because they're not involved in this. Their life's probably been made hard enough without me adding to that.
Yeah, and they don't need,
they're victims
by
of this.
association, they already instantly get that negativity. They don't need additional.
No, they don't, and I'm not going to add on to that.
They've had to live with it. That's their, yeah.
Yeah. From the time they married in 1981 until his arrest in 1987, the Pitchfork family lived in Littlethorpe, which is just over half a mile from Narborough and approximately 2.5 miles from Enderby. So the police had been bang on when they'd said it was somebody local. During questioning by police, Pitchfork admitted, you ready for this? He had been exposing himself to women since he was in his teens, and he had believed he'd done this over 1,000 times. According to him, he just couldn't help it. Just fell out of his pants.
Oh, of course, yeah, as it does.
I hate when that happens. You're walking around Tesco and your boobs flop out.
Yeah.
Rather than trying to stop at any time, he instead got worse and moved on to sexually assaulting and strangling women he attacked. Now, God knows how many women he'd done this to over the years, but I understand why they didn't report it. Though he would admit to these acts, he refused to go into detail about how far he went. In November 1987, Ian Kelly, the man who provided the false sample for Pitchfork, was charged with 2 counts of perverting the course of justice and was remanded on bail until December the 2nd. And I don't think I found out what happened to him. One day after his arrest, Pitchfork was charged with the murders of Linda Mann and Dawn Ashworth. He was also charged with indecently assaulting a 15-year-old girl on the 13th of February 1979 and for the indecent assault of another 15-year-old girl on 25th of October 1985. He also faced the accusation of kidnapping a 17-year-old girl in June 1987. He didn't get caught for any of those. Alongside Kelly, he was charged also with conspiring to pervert the course of justice. On December the 2nd, he admitted to all counts, and a psychiatric report commissioned by the court found that he had a psychopathic personality alongside a very acute psychosexual pathology. His trial ended with him being found guilty, and on sentencing, the Lord Chief Justice voiced his concerns for the safety of the public should Pitchfork ever be released, and the Secretary of State gave him a life sentence with a minimum of 30 years to be served in HMP Leyhill in Gloucestershire. Now, over the years, this trash appealed for sentence reductions time and time again. Don't we just hear this all the time? And in 2009, his term was reduced to 28 years. And in July 2021, it was announced that not only was he due to be set free within days, he was also not going to be put on the UK Sex Offenders Register. So in September 2021, Pitchfork was out. The family didn't find this out until after he was let out. The families.
That's disgusting.
I know. But what's also disgusting is he was able to assume a new identity. He paid £33, changed his name by deed poll while he was in jail, and became David Thorpe. At the time, the public were assured that public safety was of the utmost importance and that it would be under continuous monitoring. However, within 2 months of release, he was rearrested and returned to jail after reports by probation officers that he was again approaching young women. So where was the monitoring there? He was back in the news this year, 2025, with reports of sexually assaulting another prisoner. But I didn't really feel the need to go into this because I think it gives him more attention than he deserves, and he makes me sick. I want to end the episode by sharing with you what happened with the other cases that had been looked at when investigating Linda and Dawn's murders.
Does this include the 5-year-old?
Yes.
Ugh, yeah.
And you'll know the person. So, the killer of Colette Aram was a 50-year-old man called Paul Stuart Hutchison. He was caught in 2008 when his son was arrested on motoring charges. Now, in the UK, it's common practice to take DNA swabs when arrests are made, and so when his sons were entered into the police database, it showed a familial match with DNA found at the scene of Colette's murder. Paul Stuart Hutchison was arrested and charged. He tried to blame his brother, who was deceased, but it was him. It was his DNA. On October the 5th, 2009, he pled not guilty, but changed this to guilty in a pre-trial hearing on the 21st of December.
Imagine throwing your dead brother under the bus.
He would have let the son take the blame.
Ugh.
If he could. He was sentenced to life with a minimum of 25 years on the 25th of January 2010, but he took his own life just 18 months into a sentence without ever saying why he murdered Colette. And I read that he'd asked his wife or his ex-wife to come and see him the day before.
Dog groomer.
No.
No? Which one was she?
That's Caroline. Colette was the young girl.
Which young girl? The
16-year-old.
Oh, right.
In 1986, a 19-year-old man called Paul Bostock from Beaumont Leys was jailed for the murder of Caroline Osborne. She's the dog groomer.
Right.
And a young nurse who was just about to get married called Amanda Whedon. He murdered Amanda shortly after he visited Caroline's grave, and he was sentenced to life but was released in October 2010 with a new identity. So I'll be sharing pictures of what we think he'll look like now so that you guys can keep your eyes peeled, because he's back in the community.
And be safe. Just go back to that. He visited her grave. Obviously, that triggered his memory and his sick whatever fantasies.
He
and
got
he
excited
went,
over the fact
that's
that he had done this. Yeah.
It's, so he's gone
straight out and pulled Amanda Whedon off the street and killed her.
Yeah, that's just.
And little Caroline Hogg, who was abducted in Edinburgh before being murdered and dumped at the side of a motorway in Leicester, was the youngest and third victim of serial killer
Peter Tobin?
Robert Black, the lorry driver.
Oh, okay.
I wanted to make sure that I gave the information about the other victims, and I'm not really interested in giving information about the people that killed them, but I'll put links so people can look into the cases.
So is Colin Pitchfork back out again, or has he been kept in as David thought? Or?
That's what I was saying, that in 2025 he was in the news again because he's assaulted a prisoner, but I don't want to cover it. He's still inside, and that's all that matters.
He's still inside?
Yeah, he's a disgusting beast.
Yeah.
And they'll tell you, oh, he's got a diagnosis, and I think, well, if somebody's diagnosed with that ahead of time and then they don't there must be people with that who don't go out.
It doesn't excuse anything.
No, I wasn't going to say it excused anything, but what I'm thinking is there must be people who have those feelings but don't go on to murder,
and
sexually
rape
assault
schoolgirls.
Yeah, sexually assault and murder kids. And my daughter's 15 this year, and the whole time I was doing this case, I was thinking, it's a wonder people let their kids out at all.
It's terrifying.
It's horrible. So, yeah, I don't know what this episode's going to be called at this point, but there's a lot of links. I will share as much as I can.
There's a lot.
But I was interested. There is, but I shared this one because of the scientific breakthrough, and I thank God that we have that now.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. It's brilliant. And also the familial DNA that you mentioned.
Yep.
Wow. That's convicted. I was reading statistics. I can't remember what they were, but it's convicted a lot of people since.
I can't remember her surname, but have you heard of Cece? The woman's name's Cece, and she basically...
Cece Bloom?
No. She basically takes DNA and then she goes through family trees and things like that and works it back, and it is incredible. She's like famous in her field. And I just think it's incredible. Like, one day the Golden State Killer was sitting having his coffee in the morning, and the next minute he'd been arrested because of a coffee cup.
Because you should share her, because I've not heard of her.
I'll have to look up her name. Yeah. Cece. There's a really good podcast if you're into the scientific side of things. There's a podcast called DNA ID, and they talk about this, and they talk about, I can never remember the name of the way that DNA is broken down. It's got a name that I can never remember off the top of my head, but it'll tell you like how many of them. So they'll start off and they'll have DNA at a scene, and then they put it into ancestry.com and all the big DNA places. Like when you do your DNA, you do the swab and then you put it on these websites, and they start with this, and they're like,
Data,
right, okay,
if you're
and
American.
then they go on to these, and they find you, right? So they find you, and they're like,
That's
it's
so
not.
lucky. They found me.
So you're the closest You're the closest living relative, not living. You're the closest relative that shares DNA with this person, but you might be over here. So I'm trying to explain this. You're Victoria, but your aunties, brothers, cousins, daughters, son, and they can work their way all the way over, and then they're like, oh, we've got one person, that's great, we've got them. But then if there's like 3 siblings that have very similar DNA,
She's getting really excited.
it's really exciting, because then what they do is they actually do proper investigating where they follow them about. And in America, the law is if your trash is out on the street, it's public property. So then they'll go in and they get DNA and stuff, and then it's amazing. But how they're catching people, and these arseholes have gone like 20, 30, 40 years thinking they've got away with shit, and then you're like,
Gotcha.
hold my pint. It's amazing.
Hold my beer.
It's brilliant. It's DNA
Yeah.
ID, and it's very, very scientific, but it's brilliant.
That sounds really good. Write that one down too to share. Going to be doing lots of sharing with this episode. Nice.
Yeah, so I just think it's incredible that we're catching these bastards now.
Yeah. I mean, I would be totally up for giving my DNA anyway. I think they've probably got mine because...
No, you have to do it and then put it on the website. So I've got a kit at home, so
Oh,
I'm going to
have
do
you?
mine. Yeah, I'm going to do it and put it on DNA Ancestry, and I've said to both my parents, so if there's
I was
anything
just
to
thinking
tell me right now.
I was thinking that they took mine because I used to work in a shop that was broken into and burgled.
Yeah, but they're not allowed to put it on the databases.
But they should.
But it's
they should take it from all newborn babies.
But it's a breach that you've got all these people that say, but that's a breach of my identity, and what if you set me up for a crime and blah blah blah. That's what people say.
Bullhickey.
I know it makes.
Bullhickey. Your own.
Has bullhickey made it into your vernacular? Because that's a B word.
Yes. Thanks, Gemma. If you're innocent, you wouldn't mind them having your DNA, would you?
Well, some people don't want their DNA on there in case somebody they love is a convict, and I'm like, hell no. If it turned out somebody in my family had done stuff like this, I'd be like, yeah, take them and throw away the fucking key.
Yeah.
But it makes me think he obviously went out on the prowl all of these times and just happened to find these people. Those girls were literally in the wrong place at the wrong time, and it must have happened like that.
Yeah, he was obviously an opportunistic criminal, but why was he just getting his wang out 1,000 times?
It makes me
That's
wonder
just
as well.
gross.
We know that there was a systemic issue in the police where women would report things and be ignored, and also that flashing used to be seen as something that was funny to people. Oh, this woman got flashed. So no wonder people didn't come forward and say anything. So either he did do that to 1,000 people, or that was another, he got off on falsely admitting to doing that as well.
Either way.
Because you'd think
Come
the time
on,
would be like, oh, there's a flasher around here, but that doesn't come up in anything. He's just a scumbag.
It was never taken seriously, was it?
Nope.
Whereas now it's seen as a...
gateway.
Yeah, a gateway to further sexual deviance and abuse and murder in this case.
Yep.
Horrid. I'm so sorry for those families. And including the family of the kid that was wrongly accused.
Yep. Just thank God for this technology, because Colin Pitchfork would have gone on to kill more people.
And you think the area as well, when you said it was really close to a psychiatric hospital, people might have jumped to conclusions there too. So was that intentional? Was he there intentionally?
He was there intentionally, but I don't know. Do you think he thought through, people might think it was somebody?
Not. No, probably not.
Thank you very much for listening, everybody. And if you could leave us reviews and follow us, not in public, but like follow us.
I just got the Pink Panther music in my
I did
head.
as well. When I was in that old school vintage, they had a Pink Panther lamp.
Cool. Sharing our little podcast with your friends just helps.
It
helps
does.
us grow. It helps our audience grow. And
It gets these cases out
I'm
there.
really proud of what we're doing so far, what we've done, what we've delivered so far, because it's all new. I've said it before. It's still all new. We're still learning. We're enjoying researching all this stuff. And
Saying so far
Sorry.
sounds like it's about to get... I know, she's snoring away.
my CEO is snoring in the corner here.
Saying you're proud of what we've done so far sounds like, but we're about to get really crap, so stop listening.
No, but we're about to get really, really
No, don't build us up too much.
mediocre. We're just enjoying it. We hope you are too. And please follow, like, share, download,
Request.
Give us 5 stars because we're awesome.
And also,
send us Freddos.
I'm going to
'cause we
interrupt
like
you a
them.
minute.
Give us rum because it makes us dance.
Doesn't make me dance. I hate rum. But also, it is about the cases and it's about getting them out there. So go and tell people about this case. Talk about the change in DNA and let people know. Put your DNA on the websites.
Yeah.
I'm going to do mine. So my favourite part is going to be, I've had it for about 6 months. I got it in a deal. Are you proud of me? I got it in a deal.
I'm jealous. I want to do it.
Well, I'm going to do it.
How do I do it?
Like this. Yep.
Okay.
Take a swab and then you do it with a snap. There's like a code, like a snap code thing, but QR code. That's what I was meaning. You also find out your ethnicity. It's all broken down so that, because like in the background.
So I might find out why I do all these accents.
I think that's a mental thing.
Okay.
I think that's a mental health problem.
All right.
It's like those people that go into comas and wake up with Jamaican accents.
Hey, Dr. Jones could tell me if it's a mental health problem.
I'm not introducing you. He'll not let you out the office because he'll be like, she's got this, she's got that, she's got it. Right, anyway,
we're just here now, Victoria.
We're blabbing. So thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Gemma, for sharing that crack.
You're very welcome. I thought you were going to say crap. Right, thank you.
Good.
Oh, bye!
Keep on trucking.